So we are starting off today with our first introduction. This whole week we will be working on learning some of the basic terminology and ideas behind craft before we can start to make things. All right, so first of all, you need to determine what is art and what is craft because there is a difference. So art, the definition that we work with is communication through the senses. You have 5 senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, and hearing. And there is an art that goes with each of those senses. Hearing relates to music, sight relates to visual art, touch, which includes movement, relates to dance and sports, taste relates to culinary arts, cooking. Smell relates to olfactory arts, which is the art of designing smells. Think like perfume and toothpaste and cleaning supplies. So in art, the main purpose is the communication of a concept. It's the artist communicating something to the viewer. And the aesthetic properties are important. Aesthetic is how it looks, how it makes people feel and react to it. So craft, on the other hand, is art that is made for a purpose. And the purpose can be functional, it can be religious, it could be educational, it can be a lot of things, but it has a specific purpose that it has to fill. And then the aesthetic properties are secondary to the function. So how it looks, how it causes a reaction in the viewer are secondary to does it actually work for what it's intended for. So an example of art, and I'm sure everybody has seen this picture sometime in their life. This is the Mona Lisa, painted by Leonardo da Vinci in 1503. It's oil on wood. And think about these questions. Think about, first of all, what purpose does it serve? And then secondly, what are the qualities of the painting, the aesthetic qualities? So as far as purpose goes, it's a portrait. So just like we have portraits today, whether it's a formal portrait like a school picture or whether it's an informal selfie, it's to document a person and how they looked and how they were at a specific point in time. And that can be to remember them by or to use for self-reflection or what have you. But basically, it's showing us what somebody looked like. And the qualities of this painting, for the time, it was considered to be a painting of a very beautiful woman. Aesthetically, the painting is considered to be one of the best paintings in Western art. Western meaning European, Americans. Art, of course, at this time, Leonardo is European, Italian. She was considered to be extremely beautiful because at that time, aesthetically, in females, a high forehead was considered attractive. And the fact that she is smiling, she is one of the first known smiling paintings. So an example of craft is this. Its title is Nature Sequence. It's by Billy Ruth Sudduth, who is a Cherokee artist here in North Carolina. It's made from oak, reeds, and natural dyes. And again, your questions: what purpose does it serve and what are the qualities of the basket? So the purpose, it being a basket, the purpose is to hold something. Baskets are containers. And tightly woven baskets like this can hold things that are very fine, like sand or grain. A loosely woven basket is used to hold different things. And the qualities, it's structurally, it's sound, it's very well made. If you look carefully at the bottom of the basket, it's raised up so it sits on kind of like little legs that are woven into it, so it doesn't sit flat on a surface. And it also has a design to it. the materials are manipulated to create that zigzag design, which is quite difficult to make. So in the next few slides, I will tell you which these are, but I want you to think first and think about if it is art or craft. And if it is art, how do you know that? If it's craft, what purpose does it serve? And does it also have artistic qualities? If you are a face-to-face student in class today, I'm going to go over these with you, obviously. But if you are working online, think about the questions. Try to, if you need to pause the video, think about it before I answer. So this is the first one. And you should have thought whether it's art or craft. This is art. It's a painting by Jackson Pollock, who is one of the most famous American abstract expressionist painters. And even though it looks like something anybody could do, it's not something that anybody could do. The reason why this is art, it's intentional, the splattering. It's actually quite a large painting. It would take up most of a 2-car garage on the floor. He actually painted it in his garage. And he was inspired by Navajo sand paintings, where sand is scattered down onto a surface in a very deliberate manner. So he was trying to do that with paint and splattering down paint in a very deliberate manner. Art or craft? This is craft. It is a quilt. Some of you might have recognized that. You probably have run across a quilt, or you might have a quilt. The primary purpose of a quilt is to keep you warm at night. Quilts are made of layers of fabric, and between the fabric is some sort of stuffing that's kind of sandwiched in there, and that's what provides the insulation to keep you warm. This quilt is Falling Leaves, and it's an art quilt, so it also has the aesthetic quality of making it look like it's leaves falling on a forest floor. Art or craft? This is a craft. This is a totem pole from the Northwest Coast and the Coatl people, which are Native Americans. And totem poles signify families and ancestors. So as your family grows, totems are added to the pole. So they sit on top of each other, and people passing by can see who you are and who your people are. They are not meant to last forever. If you look in the background, you can see some that are older that have the paint worn off, and then on the right hand side, one that has fallen down because of weather and the elements. Art or craft? This is art. It's part the head of a statue from Greece. And Greece and Roman statues that were carved out of marble, they were not just the plain stone during the time that they were actually created. They were painted on the surface, and over the years that paint has worn away. So instead of thinking them of the classic white kind of statues, think of them more like mannequins standing around outside. And they were actually, some of them were dressed with clothing. And then later on, because they were considered to be pagan and because nudity was not favored, a lot of them were destroyed and crushed in order to make roads. And that's why you see a lot of these statues as simple parts like this head, or missing arms or legs or things of that nature. Art or craft. This is actually both. It's art because it's presented as art. They are two self-portraits made by the same artist, but she uses craft processes and craft type materials. They are more artistic than crafty because they are meant to be based on communication and aesthetics and display. The one on the left, the white one, is made out of soap. And what she did was take a giant block of soap and then used her hands, so think rectangular block, and then used her hands and water to wash it down and shape it until it was a self-portrait. And on the other side, the dark brown statue is made out of chocolate. And she started with a solid large block of chocolate, and then she used her mouth and biting it and gnawing it and licking at it until she created the shape. The chocolate looks multicolored because that's what happens as chocolate ages. It's called bloom. If you've ever opened a candy bar and noticed that it wasn't like the shiny dark chocolate, it had kind of a gray tone to it or a light tone, like old Halloween candy or whatever. It's still okay to eat. It's just the fats separating, and the fat and the wax from the chocolate rises to the surface, and that's what gives it that other color to it. Art or craft. This is craft. It is a cake that is made. Its function is to be eaten. And its purpose, it's a wedding cake. It's made to look like a sandcastle and very decorated and very beautiful, but still a craft. Art or craft. This is art. It's a collage, which is an image made up of other images. And it's a collage of Bob Dylan, who is a musician, made up of his CD covers, CDs, the music on discs that comes in boxes. Yeah. The CD covers and the liner notes, which are the lyrics and text and other information and whatnot. Art or craft. This is craft. It is a mask from Tibet that is worn as part of a costume during a ceremony. And even though it is presented here as a piece of art, it actually has a very specific purpose and function to it that's beyond just looking at it. Art or craft. This is art. This is by Albert Dürer, and this is an engraving of a rabbit that is very realistic, part of a natural history set, so that people, this is way before photography was invented, could look and understand the qualities of living things. But it's an art. Art or craft. This is a craft. This is another rabbit that has been taxidermied. Taxidermy is the craft of stuffing animals where the fur or the hide is removed and preserved, and then it is stretched over a sculpture, an armature that used to be made of things like wood and cotton, but now is mostly made of fiberglass, and then stitched back so that it looks like the animal realistically, except for frozen in time. In the classroom, I have a taxidermy deer butt on the wall, And that's the only piece of taxidermy I have in class because I don't really have a place to hang things. But that's one of the things that I do as a side gig is I restore old taxidermy. Art or craft. This is art. This is a spiral jetty. It's in the Great Salt Lake in Utah. And it's built up out of rocks and sand and gravel and whatnot. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't because the water levels change and the water's over it. It can be seen best from the air, and that's what it's designed for. And then because of the way it's curved in there, working with containing water at different depths and different restrictions, where you see that pink part, that's algae that's blooming because the water temperature changes as it's formed, has the different depths and things. So different things grow at different times. I actually saw this being built when I was a really little kid driving my parents. It was one of our trips across the country. My dad thought it was a boat ramp, and they didn't tell us what it was at the time, but later on we figured out this is what it was. Art or craft. This is craft. You probably recognize this. This is Stonehenge in England, which is a prehistoric site. And the part of it that you're looking at is a very small part of what the actual structure was. It has more circles that go out around it, more rings. And it has a function to it. It's a giant calendar. So when you stand in the middle, and the position of the sun creating the shadows of the different rocks and how they fall in different places, you can tell what time of year it is, what month it is, what day it is, what hour it is. It's actually surprisingly precise. And it was also used as a ritual site as well. Art or craft. You guys probably all recognize this. Next to the Mona Lisa, it's the most recognized work of Western art. It's Starry Night by Van Gogh. And it is art. It is a painting. And the thing about Van Gogh is when you look at this painting and you see those swirls of brushstrokes and things, people at the time thought that he was just being his kind of odd self and creative. He only sold one painting during his life, and that was to his brother Theo. But in fact, Van Gogh had a chemical imbalance in his brain, and over time, this is how he actually saw things with his eyes. They actually functioned in this manner so that things were broken down almost into pixels. Art or craft. This is craft. It is from Guatemala, and they are strip weavings. Small, narrow ones are often sold for bracelets. Larger ones are woven in these strips that are then attached to each other, which then makes a cloth that they can do different things with. The different colors have different meanings, the different patterns. And its function is a way to make cloth that can be used for everything from things that you wear to decorative objects. Art or craft. This is also craft. This is a Ndebele doll from Africa. And it's made of cloth and beads that are done over a structure that is wood and leather. And what it represents, and you see the golden rings underneath the head, those are the neck rings, and this is a representation of the mother and a mother of a son. When their mothers are given these, when their sons reach the stage of adolescence where they go and they leave their community to do coming of age rituals, which they may or may not come back, depending upon if they were able to survive. And so the long things that are hanging down are the mother's tears at her child leaving to become a man. And she is given this when he leaves so that it kind of memorializes the event. So, reviewing, craft is art that serves a purpose. Contextual qualities are the primary focus. Physical qualities are a primary focus, and aesthetic qualities are a secondary focus. And we will find out more about what those words mean. But first, you have an assignment. So your assignment activity is a scavenger hunt. You only need your Chromebook to do this. And there's a picture of our taxidermy deer butt that's in class. And your directions, you need to create a 4-slide presentation. On the first slide, get an example of art and a short explanation of why you think it's art. Slide 2, an example of craft with an explanation of why you think it's craft. Slide 3, an example of art with your explanation of why it's art. And slide 4, an example of craft with your explanation of why it is craft. You can use images from the internet or take photos of actual objects if you're at home and have things. Just make sure that they are indeed art and craft and not something that is manufactured. So you may not want to use a plastic water bottle as an example, okay? And if you have questions, text me, email me, let me know, and I will answer you as soon as possible. All right, this presentation took about not quite 25 minutes, so that leaves you with at least an hour of class time to get this finished today. It is due today. Thank you.